Welcome, everybody. It's great to have you all here this morning for our Saturday education series on Peer Mentor Program. We are going to, we have a couple of panelists that are going to be talking, some of our mentors. And if you have questions, we would love to take as many Q&A as possible. I also see that there's a lot of other mentors from SCIboston and past mentors that are joining the call. So I do hope that you'll all feel comfortable sharing something during the Q&A if you want about your experience. This is being recorded and it will be posted on our YouTube page. And I'm very pleased to turn this over to Diane DeRoche, our peer mentor coordinator. Diane has been in this position for not that long, but she's been with SCIboston for quite a long time as a family mentor and group leader, and now the peer mentor coordinator. And yeah, Diane, let me turn it to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you very much. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. Heidi, I want to thank you first for all the work you've done organizing this presentation. I know it takes a lot of time and energy out of your own busy work schedule, and I thank you very, very much. Your presentations are always wonderful. I'm about to give you a fairly quick explanation of our peer mentor program. I will be reading from my notes so as to stay focused and on the most important information. And I want to give our panel time to tell their stories as well. If you have questions, I am happy to answer them during the Q&A and even after the meeting. I need to read because I tend to ramble. I can get off on little side stories, and I want to stay focused. I want to give everyone a chance to speak. We can ramble afterwards when everyone's talked. So first, I'd like to start with a quote about mentoring. I love inspirational quotes. I love inspirational sayings. And I was looking for something that spoke of mentoring. And this one really stuck out to me. It's very simple. If you cannot see where you're going, ask someone who has been there. Speaks volumes about mentorship. So, SCIboston's mentors play a crucial role in offering support, empathy, and guidance to their mentees, drawing from their own experiences. Their feedback and encouragement helps to foster confidence, hope as their mentees travel along this new journey. Today, we have two main goals to complete. Heidi and I hope to bring more awareness to our peer mentor program and for you to have a better understanding of how our mentor program works and to reflect the positive benefits of being a mentor and having a mentee. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about me. Most of you know me, but for those of you who don't, my name's Diane DeRoche. We know that. And I was introduced to SCIboston 14 years ago. This March, when my son Ryan was injured while riding his mountain bike on a walking path in Spain. He was on his way to the hotel, and while riding on the path, he hit a root in the path and was thrown over his handlebars, landing on his neck. Our story began on that day in March of 2011. As you know, I am SCIboston's peer mentor coordinator, and I have been in the position for almost a year now. Amazing how time flies. I am amazed at the power of this community and all of the support we offer to each other. My main responsibility is to act as a liaison for those who are injured. I work with our community, family members, and healthcare professionals. For a little history about the program, it's 34 years old. Mike Ferreter, a member and past president of the Boston chapter, was the mastermind of our program. Our mentors are trained volunteers who have experienced life with a spinal cord injury and can provide support and resources through one-on-one mentoring and during weekly support groups. We have an enormous amount of gratitude for their never-ending support and dedication to their purpose. We have a group of over 30 trained mentors. We have family mentors and mentors for those with spinal cord injury. Our mentors must be injured for at least 2 years before they can consider being a mentor. When someone connects with us and tells us that they are interested in being a mentor, Heidi and I will first meet with them virtually, get to know their story and how they were introduced to the SCI community. There is a small amount of paperwork to do. There's 3 documents. And those of you who have gone through it with me can attest to that. 3 documents that you'll sign. And we highly recommend participation in at least one of our weekly virtual meeting that relates to your injury, or if you're a family member or a spouse, choose those meetings to go to. We find that attending the meetings will help become familiar with our community, and that's very important. It gets you to meet the people who are in our community and get to know them and get to see how we all work. After completing those 3 documents, I will then start to discuss our training, which is offered through United Spinal Association. After completing the training, Heidi and I will start the process of matching our new mentor to a new mentee. The training, the official training with United Spinal is 1 day. It's typically on a Saturday. It runs for 4 hours, sometimes 3, 3.5. And you also would be required to do an at-home virtual training that takes 1 hour. So it's not a lot of time invested, a lot of experience, but not a lot of time invested in becoming a mentor. If you're interested in connecting with a mentor, all you have to do is connect with either Heidi or myself by phone or email, or for that matter, you can connect with your PT, OT, your case manager, even your doctor. You can connect, and once you are connected, I can send you your intake form so that I can learn a little bit more about you, and then the journey begins. So the intake form is basically, it's designed for the spinal cord injury person, or the person with spinal cord injury, sorry. It's designed for a family member, and then it's designed for the mentee. And it's 3 pages. It tells us the date you were injured, and your interests, what you want to learn about. It just tells us more about you. So last but not least, what does a mentor-mentee relationship look like? This is a question when someone's interested in being a mentor, they will often—
How do I stop this, Kathy?
They will often say, okay, so what do I have to do? How long does this take? How many hours do I have to put into this? And it's actually up to the mentor and the mentee. So once I've connected you with your mentor or your mentee, you both are in charge of how that relationship will play out. You can meet virtually, you can communicate through email, phone, text, and you can also meet in person. Many do. Many go out for lunch or just meet for coffee. You both will create the rules. Many ask how long the relationship's supposed to last, and that is entirely up to you and your mentee. You can, some people, and you'll hear our stories, some people have relationships that have been going on for years, and sometimes it will last for 6 months. It depends on how long the mentee needs the direction, the support. So again, it's entirely up to you. and how that works. You set up all the rules. So this is my summarization of the peer mentor program. I'm here throughout this meeting, and I'm available after this meeting. If anyone has any questions, concerns, or wants to talk a little bit more about the process, I'm more than happy to answer your questions. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Diane. That was terrific. So moving along, we have, unfortunately, one mentor who was supposed to be here this morning was not able to attend, but we have Caitlin Riley, Matthew Kloss, Kristen McCosh, and Chris Johnson, as well as Diane DeRoche, who'll be sharing a little bit about being a family mentor. I'll also be calling on a few people that are here attending to share a little bit about their experience as a mentor or as a family mentor. So we're going to hold questions until the end of the presentations, but please go ahead and put something in the chat if you want a placeholder, and we will make sure that we address that. Also, again, as I said, there may not be as many questions as there may also just be comments that people want to make, or some of you that may just want to share a little bit about your experience as a mentor or having been mentored as a mentee. If you're not able to put anything in the chat, do not worry. When we get to the Q&A, you can use the hand raise reaction, or you can just call out if you're not able to do that. So whatever works for you. So we're going to get started, and I'm going to call on Caitlin Riley.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. So I'm just doing a brief intro, right, Heidi?
Yes, and tell us a little bit about your experience as a
Okay.
as
So
a mentor. Yeah.
Okay. So my name is
Not getting off that easy.
my name is Caitlin. I'm from Hingham, Massachusetts, and I have a spinal cord injury from a car accident in 1991. I was injured at age 15, so I was still in high school. And I had my first mentor when I was 17, and she was also, I have a T5 spinal cord injury, and the mentor that I was hooked up with was also the same exact level. She was in, like, I want to say in her 30s at the time, and she lived alone. She worked full time. She went to college, totally independent with all her care. So it was a really great experience for me because I got to see what was possible for me in my future. And I definitely think that relationship shaped who I am today, and also like how I mentor other people. I think that covers everything. Is there anything I missed?
Do you want to share anything, Caitlin, briefly about just how it has been for you being a mentor?
Yeah, so it's definitely a very rewarding experience to be able to share your life and experience with others and try and help them kind of figure things out, especially as a woman with a spinal cord injury. There's not many of us, so I think it's really important for us to connect, and I think it's also really important for people to like know other people with spinal cord injuries because we truly get it. So I think that mentor relationship can facilitate that, just having someone in your life that truly understands what you're going through and can understand like the questions you might have, like, I don't know, how do you catheterize in your chair, or how do you, just things that are very unique to women with spinal cord injuries. But so I would say it's a very rewarding experience for the mentor as well as the mentee.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. All right, we might come back to you with some questions.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So now I'm going to turn it over to Matthew. Hey, Matthew.
Hey everyone. My name is Matthew Kloss. I was injured like 8 years ago. I'm a T10. I had a spinal stroke inside of my spinal cord, and that left me, complete T10 paraplegic. I went through a few mentors when I was newly injured, when I was inpatient at Spalding Rehab, and I think it just took me a little while to find someone who I felt like had a similar injury to mine, similar mindset, kind of had similar goals as to what I envisioned my life to be. And yeah, what else you want to talk about, Heidi? You want to talk about like Dave and
Yeah, if you want to tell, maybe just share, because that is a really interesting point. That Diane and I, we really, we do the best we can in getting to know the we feel like we know our mentors very well, but in trying to find the right match. So maybe you could just share a little bit about what that was like to meet somebody and how that kind of clicked for you and impacted your
Yeah.
recovery.
For sure. I think it's important also to recognize like SCIboston is very different than it was 8 years ago. So, and I think in a very positive way. So, I was hooked up with some people who, you know, probably would have been a good match, but like any type of, you know, interpersonal relationship, I just, you know, it just didn't work out. And finally, I think when I was hooked up with Dave Estrada, it just really instantly clicked. And I think I was also in a place where I was like totally emotionally open to wanting to build a relationship with someone. I think that's a really important thing. I don't I don't know if everyone is, or you know, like I was desperate to try to gain information and try to glean some type of sense of normalcy. And for me, you know, meeting someone who had, you know, lifelong experience of being in a wheelchair was like really crucial to my recovery. And I think for Dave and I, it just kind of happenstance that we became, you know, really close friends. So, you know, I think to some degree my situation's a little unique. I don't know of everyone whose like mentor becomes their best friend, but you know, for Dave and I, we do have a really close relationship, and it's nice in a way because I don't know how many years Dave has been paralyzed, like over 25, right? So very long time. And it's nice because, you know, like our relationship has changed where, you know, just because he's been paralyzed significantly longer than I am, like my own life experience with my injury is now like helping him, I think, in some ways where the relationship has changed, where it's not just me gaining information from him, but it's also me being able to give something back, just because everyone's injury and everyone's personal experience are so different. So that's kind of cool that that's transformed a little bit, where it feels like it's like it can go back and forth a little bit now.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Matthew. And again, it's also a really good point. And one of the things that people ask about is like, how long does this mentor-mentee relationship last? Diane, I don't know if you want to say anything about it, because sometimes it's, Dan, do you want to jump in here?
Sorry, I was muted. And yes, I mentioned that when I first was talking. You know, sometimes they last, like Matthew's saying, sometimes they last for a long time. And sometimes, you know, sometimes they have a hard time even starting. And Matthew, if you don't mind me asking you, I think I heard you say in the beginning of your presentation, I think you said that some of your beginning relationships didn't work out. Can you speak just a little bit about that? Because that can happen. I mean, people don't have to love each other in the beginning. And if it's not working out, it shouldn't continue. So can you give us a little feedback about that?
Yeah, it's not really that it was anything personal. I think it was mainly just a little bit personalities, but also I think it was like what I was looking for in the sense of like how I wanted to live my life, right? Like when you're newly injured, like everything changes, right? and you really have to kind of reinvent yourself a little bit and figure out what that life is going to look like. So I think as organically as possible, you're 3 weeks out from becoming paralyzed, laying in a bed at Spalding, what do you know how you want your life to look like, right? But I think I met some peer mentors, and hearing them describe how they live their life, for me it was pretty evident, like right off, like, yeah, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want my life to look like that. And that's not necessarily a negative thing at all. It's just it was just how it was for me. So I think the reason why it didn't work out with some people was mainly just because of that. I don't think they were able to offer me what I was looking for to gain for information. That's not to say that they didn't have useful information. It just wasn't necessarily great for me. So, and that's not to say also that Dave had like every single answer. There's aspects of his life that I would not want to necessarily model myself after, but I felt as though not only did our personalities click really well, but also that there was things about his life that I knew I wanted, right? Like his life seemed to match up with my normalcy before I was injured. And so that really resonated with me. And I was like, okay, like this dude knows what he's doing. And I think I could gain some information from that. And I think also my personality and how I try to mentor people when I do mentor is like being as open as possible. And he was really like that. And that's a personality thing. I think sometimes people are a little bit more shy or a little bit more reserved, a little bit more closed off. For me, Dave was just like an open book, and I was an open book, so like, you can ask me anything and I'll probably answer it no matter what it is. That's not always how people are, and that's okay.
Yeah. Thank you for that perspective.
Mhm.
And we'll come back to with any questions, or thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Kristen McCosh.
Thanks, Heidi.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to see some old friendly faces. Chris, I haven't seen you in a while. Molly, nice to see you. Caitlin, certainly. So my name is Kristen McCosh, and I have a C5-6 spinal cord injury. I was injured 42 years ago. I was also 15, like Caitlin. It was 1983. There were no peer mentors. I didn't have a peer mentor. I would have loved one. I always say after I became a peer mentor that it probably would have saved me 5 years of trying to figure out how to do things. Especially like Caitlin said, being a woman, I was the only woman on the whole floor. I did my rehab at University Hospital F5. I don't know if any of you have heard of that, but it was almost like a rehab ward. And there were 4 people in each room. So 2 beds on one side, 2 beds on the other. And I was in a room with 3 men. I was the only girl on the floor. So I really had to figure things out. So on that note, I've been involved with the Boston Spinal. I always call it the GBC, Greater Boston Chapter. But I've been involved for well over 20 years. I've been on the board. I worked at Spalding as a peer mentor for a time with the GBC. And I guess what I would say for like advice as a mentor is, one thing that struck me was that when I talk to people, and like Matt said, some are receptive, some aren't. But the one thing that struck me was I felt like some people who I spoke with didn't want to be me. They wanted to be themselves 3 weeks ago. They look at, someone in a wheelchair and they say, well, that's not me, that I don't want that. I want a cure. And that's okay. So what I would say is, we're never going to stop hoping for like improvement. There's technology, there's, return of function, but we're going to try to get you to a good place now. So if that happens, then you'll be all set. So just approaching people where they are and meeting them where they are, I think is key. Then some people really wanted to know, like, after my injury, I went back to high school, I went to college, I got my license, I drive a van, I work full-time now. Since I work full-time, I don't have a lot of time for peer mentoring now, but I always think about my experiences with joy. And I really loved getting to mentor people, particularly young women, as we mentioned. Sorry, I keep turning my camera off. I have people in the background. But anyway, I would just say really meet people where they are. And sometimes they'll come around. Like Matthew was saying, some people might not want to talk at all. Some people are ready to say, yes, I want to model what you're doing. I want to learn to drive. I want to go back to work. I want to go to school. And we can help them through those steps. But some people just aren't ready for that. And we can still be a help to them by encouraging them. And then when they come around and want to do a match, you might just have to take it slowly. Like maybe their only goal is to, go back to school and they don't want to think about getting a license yet, or because it can be overwhelming. All the things you said, like Matthew said, everything's changed instantly. You don't have an accessible house. You don't have an accessible vehicle. You don't know how you're going to navigate school or work. You don't know like your rights. You don't know like what's available to you for services. So it's a long road. So I would say to pace yourself and really start with the person's goals and try to figure out what they want and meet them where they are.
Thank you so much for that, Kristen. I know you go back a long way. Yeah, it's interesting what you said about saving 5 years, right? If you had had a mentor maybe and helping you navigate some of those early things.
Even practical things like Caitlin said, like learning about like catheters, learning about like, just practical things that affect women differently. You can really, especially if you form a close relationship like Dave and Matthew, you can really become friends, and it's nice to have friends.
Yeah, thank you. And if it's okay that I mention that Kristen is also the disability commissioner for the city of Boston. So we appreciate all you do in that.
Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat. If anyone has questions about anything in the city of Boston as far as access, you can always email me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. And Chris Johnson, you're up.
Sorry about that. I was on mute. Good morning, everyone.
It's okay.
My name is Chris Johnson. I have been a peer mentor for quite some time. I forget how long I've been doing it, but it's been some time. I got injured in 2006. I sustained I'm a survivor of a gunshot injury, where I was shot in my back. What can I say? I received a peer mentor really early on. And I'm going to kind of share about how I benefited from the peer mentorship and what motivated me to become a peer mentor. So I had a peer mentor visit me in the hospital. And this is when I was really disappointed and upset at what happened. And I just needed like a lifeline at that time. And when I saw, his name is Kenny Mumford, I call him the late great Kenny Mumford. He came into my room with such great energy, handsome smile, just had all the energy in the world. And I just wanted to know what was going on in his life that gave him that level of energy and happiness and joy. And I can't say he wasn't a man of many words because he was a talker, but he also lived what he spoke about. And since then, it was like he introduced me to a great community of individuals with spinal cord injuries. And we all grew through sports and fishing and just, figuring out what we wanted to do next in life, career wise. And it's been great because I related to him in so many different ways, similar to what Matt said. We just clicked. And then I met other mentors like Mac Williams, who passed away. He and I were very close, and even some other friends and that people that I have grown to become friends with now. So the peer mentorship program was very instrumental in me growing in my injury and just becoming comfortable with my situation, as well as wanting to become a mentor. And I became a mentor, I think, around 2010. And you do gain things from mentoring other people, newly injured people, because you understand their experiences and what's going on currently, right? I got injured long ago. So their challenges, maybe getting back to school or, um, some of the things that may interest them that I wasn't really thinking about when I was injured. So yeah, the peer mentorship program has been very instrumental for me, and I also know that it's been very impactful for those I have mentored because when I see them out and about in the community, playing sports or getting back to work or driving and traveling and things like that, and it really does my heart some good because I know that it was done for me, and to see it and to be able to pay that forward, I feel like that has been the most rewarding part for me after my injury.
Chris, I have a question for you. And Kristen and Matthew also, I know that the three of you work and have very busy schedules. Can you just talk a little bit, Chris, about how you've worked that within your very busy schedule? How have you worked that with your mentee?
Lately, I haven't really done much mentoring because when I first got injured, I wasn't employed, and then I was able to get back to work, and then I took on a couple of business ventures, which really took a lot of my time up. Um, so I haven't been very active lately. So can you repeat your question again? I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to know how did it work for you trying to blend being a mentor and keeping your schedule? Did it interfere with your schedule at all? Were you
Uh,
able to fit it in?
no, it didn't really interfere with my schedule. So I'm an EMT for the city of Boston. I dispatched the ambulances, and I worked at night shift, and then I also am a real estate broker. So, but prior to getting into real estate in 2017, I still was working overnight. So I would get out of work, and then I would just go to Spalding from there to meet the different mentees, and to spend time with them. And then if it was outside of the hospital setting, we would just kind of coordinate on days off and whether we would go hang out or, help someone practice driving or find equipment that they may need. So it worked well with my schedule because I worked overnight.
And you just mentioned something. You mentioned going into Spalding and meeting with them. So that means that you were seeing mostly newly injured.
Correct. Yes, so I would go into Spalding and see mostly newly injured patients and newly injured individuals. But I also was a part of the an outreach advocacy program that SCIboston pioneered. I was I was actually the first person to take on the position, and I would go out into the community and find individuals who were either um, displaced in nursing homes or skilled nursing facilities, people who were just wanting to get back to life and not be confined to a nursing home, or those who didn't know where they were going to go after discharge. So I did a lot of the housing piece, helping individuals find housing, group homes, things like that, finding access to equipment, helping them get back into sports, beds, you name it, anything that they needed. I worked to try to help them obtain. So yeah, it was inside and outside of the hospital setting.
So you not only are a mentor, but you're also a resource.
Yes, correct.
And we call on
At
you.
one point.
Yeah, we call on you a lot. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure to be of service. Again, it helps me, and it helps me. I would not be where I am today in life, thriving and not necessarily surviving, if it wasn't for having a peer mentor that really took me under his wings and introduced me to a lifestyle that is sustainable, enjoyable, and I think one of the biggest things that I've learned when you get injured. Um, you can sometimes depend on systems to help you, and that was never never who I was. But you can lose that drive to take risk, and I think that once I realized like it's still my life and I can still take risk, I can still go out here and do things that I enjoy, ventures that I want to embark on, and still take that risk. So I feel that was one of the most important things to me too, to remember and to remind myself.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate that, all that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so now I'm going to go to Diane, who's going to talk a little bit about, because we also, not only do we have mentors for individuals with spinal cord injuries, we have them for family members as well. And I'm also, actually, before I do that, Diane, is it okay if I call on Janice if she's looking for her on the screen? There's a lot. Janice, would you mind just, as one of our family mentors, maybe just sharing a little bit about your experience?
Sure, I'll be happy to.
Thank you, Janice.
I'm Janice Brodel, and my experience as a mentee started on April 16th, 2020, in the midst of COVID, when I saw Diane and some other members of the Friends and Family group. I was desperate for help. I had no idea. My husband was at Spalding, but because of COVID, I wasn't allowed to see him. I had to figure out how to modify our condo. I had to sell a house in New Hampshire. I had to figure out what equipment he was going to need, and I had no contact with anybody. I heard about this group through the social worker, and I was there with my pen in hand, and I could not have possibly survived that first year without the help of the Friends and Family group and then the Significant Other group. They made all the difference in my life and my husband's life going forward. We gathered so much information, but also so much support. So when our 2 years was up, we decided that we wanted to become mentors because we wanted to give back what we had received because it was so valuable to us. And I have to say, as being a mentor, it has been so rewarding because I get to help someone who is equally as lost as I was. And I think what I particularly like, because I would obviously work with the spouse, with a wife, is when they say, I'm not alone. Somebody understands. I felt like I was the only person. And I think that is the most important thing, is letting people know, because it was for me, that I wasn't alone. My metaphor for that first year, well, until the meeting started, that first 4 or 5 weeks, was I felt like I was in a tunnel, a train tunnel, and there was a light at the end of it, but it was really little. And I kept going towards it. But while I did, I got hit with something. Someone would throw something at me. I'd get hit and I'd pick it up, and then I'd get hit with something else. And then the group started on April 16th, 2020. And I wasn't alone in the tunnel anymore.
Beautiful.
Yes, I love that metaphor. I love that metaphor.
Thank you for sharing
you.
that, Janice.
You're welcome.
Beautiful. Thank you. Diane.
So Janice talks about the family program, and she talks about the Tuesday night group, which is for spouses, significant others. And I'm going to go back to what Janice said. You know, when Ryan first had his accident, and we were the type that went out in the hallways and schmoozed with everybody. We got to know everyone. Ryan was the same way. Ryan was meeting everyone. And it's not always like that. It's not always like that. And again, I'm going to say, I'm going back. I'm getting over verklempt here, so I'm sorry if I can't talk. The most important thing is that we all know that we're not alone. We have friends, we have family who are like, oh my God, Ryan's doing so good. He looks wonderful. Only Ronnie and I knew what was happening behind the scenes. Only Ronnie and I knew about poop, about UTIs, about upset stomachs, all of it, only we knew it. And to be joined with people who were experiencing this journey was so important, because they didn't sit there and go, oh my God, they're great, they look great. They would say, so how's it going today? How's it going? And they really understood. So I explained to you all that I became a part of this club when Ryan had his accident in 2011. And it took, I'm not sure, I didn't ask Ryan about this, but it took about 4 years for us to really get back to our new normal. And it was right around that time, and Heidi, I think you want me to talk about this right now. It was right around that time that I started saying, I was going back to work. I had taken a huge LOA. I was going back to work, and I was starting to feel this, almost the only way I can explain it was this empty feeling, like, okay, so I made it through all of this. I made it through that tunnel that Janice talks about, and I'm doing okay. So what can I do more for him? And that's when I started thinking about being a mentor. And that is right around the time that the family group, I worked with Doug and the others in the group, and I started the family group in Spalding. And this is when I started feeling as though I really needed to pay it forward. I knew that we had survived the emotional storm that started, and I wanted to share that feeling with other family members. I really needed to pay it forward at that point. I had previous experience in support group and mentoring and therapy in my personal life and within my career. And my goal was to still let people know that they are not alone. To Janice's point, you're not alone. We're all in this together and we get it. One of the questions Heidi asked me was, when was I ready to be a mentor? I just explained that. I felt like I was ready to give around 4 to 5 years afterwards. That's when I really started feeling hungry to do that. The rewards and the challenges, which the several mentors that have talked about their experience, think about sharing that with us, the rewards and the challenges of mentoring. For me, it was all about helping our new family members feeling supported and giving them back a sense of hope. I always say to everyone, you cannot lose that sense of hope. It is always a challenge in that there are so many different scenarios, all are unique. My challenge is I want to do all I can for every new member I meet. I just want them to feel a part of the whole. My reward, and this is where I'm really going to get verklempt, my reward is none of us ever think we're going to be in the SCI world. None of us ever think that will happen. And when we are, we meet huge amount of people. And when I think, if my son hadn't been injured, I would never have met all of you. I would never have met all these wonderful professionals and people in the SAI world. And I'll end with that. That has been my reward in all of this. Thank you.
Oh, you're getting me a little verklempt too. It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Diane. And we've also heard a lot of mention about the groups. And although we're talking about the peer mentoring program is very closely linked with all of our support groups, 11 different groups. Our mentors attend the groups. Lots of people here on the screen come to these groups every week and make up an incredible community. We also have several people on the screen here who are mentors and also group leaders. So all of our support groups are facilitated by mentors as well. So yes, that is truly it. Nobody is alone, whether you're the person with the injury or a family member or friend. Thank you all again. Just a couple of, before we kind of get to maybe some Q&A, I wanted to call on Ed Newell and Sarah Fargo, because Ed and Sarah are about to start they are starting the process actually of becoming mentors for SCI Boston, and we're really excited about that. And we've mostly got to know Sarah and Ed through the support groups. They've been very regular members of it and become a very big part of the SCIboston community. So I don't think you're both on the same screen.
Not.
But I would love to hear from Ed and Sarah, and maybe just to share with us, how did you know, what has this been like for you, and how did you know you were ready to start this process? Because you are just about 2 years post-injury, Ed.
So I was injured in February 5th of 2023. So coming up on my second anniversary shortly. And that'll be an emotional day for sure. I found out about the mentoring program after having already been touched by it and not even realizing that I was being touched by it. The first one to reach out to me was Diane's son, Ryan, who called me while I was inpatient at Spalding about 2 months after my injury. And he, like myself, was injured in a mountain biking accident. I also went over the handlebars on my bike and went headfirst into the ground. So we immediately had that in common. But I wasn't really ready at that point. I wasn't receptive to opening up to somebody else, being vulnerable, sharing my fears. But I think Ryan should know, I hope he's on the call,
He is.
what an impact he has had on me. I know that he's independent and that he thrives. And at the time, I didn't see that for myself in my future, and I do now. And a lot of that has to do with what I see in him now. We only had a couple of phone calls while I was inpatient at Spalding, but that had a great impact on me. My second encounter with the mentor program was with Janice's husband, Barry. And at the time, I didn't even know that Barry was a mentor, but we connected, and we were making plans. Janice, sorry to dredge this up, but with Barry's passing, it just made me realize that we have to get off our butts and do something. And so the inspiration, the support, the motivation that I've received both through the mentor program and also through the support groups that I attend, I really want to give some of that back if I can. And so that's why I'm joining the mentor program as soon as I can. 2 years coming up in 2 weeks.
Ed, thank you so much.
Whew.
And thank you for being vulnerable with us. And it's an emotional experience.
It really is.
Yeah, for sure.
And,
And we're thrilled that you're going to be joining our team. Because
2 years is still pretty fresh.
It is.
And,
Yeah.
But one thing that I've learned through attending the support groups and through befriending mentors is that you have to let that stuff out. You have to share it. Just to keep it all bottled up inside is it's maybe what we think we need to do, but it's really the last thing that we need to do.
Yeah. Ed, thank you so much. Yeah, we're excited to have you join our roster.
Thank you.
Is Sarah, I know Sarah had,
I made it, Heidi.
There you are.
Yep, here I am. I made it.
Sarah.
It's been a morning.
I know. I hope everything's okay. We heard a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you
She's
okay to tell us a little bit about?
yeah. Just backstory for everyone, like, what are they talking about? My elderly dog, she is my heart and soul, and I take her up to emergency room. So she's currently at the vet getting fluids and having all sorts of tests done to find out why she's sick. So she's my rock. Ed and Remy are my rocks. So
It's okay. I know Remy came first.
actually Remy's the reason we're together. So
That's right.
yeah, she started our relationship. Anyways, mentoring, gosh. So when I was at Spalding as the, actually coming out of 3 weeks of ICU of watching Ed almost leave us too many times to count was utterly terrifying. And then being tossed into Spalding, where it's a whole different type of support to go from one-on-one ICU nursing, which I'd grown accustomed to, you're on one corner of a floor and you've got nurses and aides that help all sorts of people on different floors, and not understanding what was going to happen in Ed's future and being terrified. When I was asked if Ed would talk to Ryan, it was like Ed, my very first glimpse of hope. It was the first star in the sky, so to speak. So Ryan, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. After his conversation with Ryan, Ed had a will in his eyes that really hadn't. Ed's he doesn't give up ever, but he had a new kind of purpose after talking to Ryan. And that was just heart-filling for me to see. Moving on from there, I was aligned with a mentor because I will take absolutely any help I can get from anyone, especially when I'm lost. And to say I was lost was an understatement. I always refer to Janice and her analogies because she talked about the one in the tunnel. She's got another one about being in a minefield. And that's the one that I really relate to, is the minefield analogy. So I was aligned with a mentor who reached out to me right away and offered her support. And this woman is the most loving and caring and compassionate person on earth. She doesn't live anywhere near me, but I know she's always there. And knowing that her presence is there and that I put something on Facebook and she's right there, sending love and care. And I see her twice a week in my support groups. And she's a rock star. And I don't tell her that enough because we don't really have one-on-one, because that's not who I am to one-on-one virtual. I'm more of a group or a one-on-one in person. And so where I'm not sure who it was it Chris that was saying? No, it wasn't Chris. It was the person that spoke before Chris. And he said that he ended up aligning with Dave, that it took a few mentors. And it's not that my mentor isn't right for me. It's just I use her a little differently or engage with her differently than maybe others do. And so I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just different. And I love the fact that the mentor program is flexible enough that I have her in the background. I have my 2 support groups. And then I have other members of my support groups that I meet with face to face. And then we always try to go to as many of the outings that SCIboston offers. And with all that support that we've gotten, we can keep going forward each day. And so I have learned a lot of things from the groups that I can share with others. And I always try to share them with my support groups. But if there's someone out there that I could take an ounce of pressure off of them and give them a resource or a reference or a contact to make their life that smidge easier, I know how much that meant to me. So whether it's paying it back or paying it forward, Ed and we're both all in. As another woman in our support group, Mary, always says, it's not a club you ever wanted to join, but boy, when you get in this club, the people are pretty darn amazing. So we're blessed to know all of you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.
Oh, Ryan's got a message there for you. Thank you for sharing that. And we're so excited to have you joining our mentor roster as well, and know what a tremendous help that you will be to family members. So thank you. Before we get into Q&A, I would like to call on Mike Pekauskis. I'm looking for you, Mike. There you are. And Mike has a very, very long history with SCIboston, formerly GBC, formerly GBC NSCIA,
Rise.
all the iterations
Yeah.
that we have been. Do you mind just, do you want to share a little bit about some
yeah,
of
I
the
would love-
history briefly?
Yeah, I'd love to, Heidi.
Thank you.
So, okay, you can hear me? Okay. So I was injured 32 years ago. Motorcycle accident. Broke my neck at C5, C6. Complete quad. I lay in a hospital bed in ICU and in F5, as Kristen mentioned, F5, when I came across someone that came to my bed, Michael Ferrada. And Michael Ferrada and I became very good friends. And so in 1995, when I was ready, I got into the peer visitation program, went through Michael's training, and 1996, I got my license, and then I decided to become even more active. So I took over the peer mentor coordinator role in 1996, and I actually did that until 2005. What I would do is I would go into hospitals, and I did all the intakes at that time. So I'd have my pad of paper and I'd write down all the information, and I would chat with people. And I realized really early in the game that I could not, it was difficult for me to relate to someone that had a higher level of injury than me, but it was also difficult for me to relate to somebody that had a lower level of injury than me. So I could talk with anyone and tell them about the program and offer resources and so on and so forth. But, I couldn't necessarily guide a C4 or C3 quad how their life is going to go. And I couldn't relate to someone that was a T10 quad and tell them how their life was going to go. So that's when I constructed a database based on all of these intakes I took, and I had a database of over 200 injuries. And then I had a database of the peer mentors that we had. And so I said, this would be a good idea to start matching up people that have like injuries. And so in 1998, Michael Ferrada turned over the peer visitation training program to me and Betsy Pillsbury, and we formalized it and made formal presentations, and we started doing the peer training. And in fact, in 1999, me and Betsy went to Arizona, the National Spinal Cord Injury Conference, and we gave a presentation on the model program that the Boston chapter had. So it was a renowned program. We distributed the presentation. I'll try to find it and I'll send it to you, Heidi, the presentation. But so anyway, so I was involved with the program until 2005, when I decided to get away from the snow and the cold, and I moved to North Carolina. So, but yeah, it was so very rewarding, and for the same reasons that all of you have said, I just really wanted to give back because the peer mentors that came to see me, Charlie Akesian was the one that was never a peer mentor, but he came and saw everybody. But yeah, but anyway, he was just Yeah, another one that really was instrumental in me moving forward. And so I started driving. I went back to work, working out. I keep very active, and even to this day. So, yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity, Heidi. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you, and all the pioneers that created this program. And I will tell you, I think in the Woburn office there are still those VHS tapes that Mike Ferreter had created.
Yeah, that's right.
That peer mentors used to watch. So, yeah, thank you so much for that. Excellent. Appreciate it, Mike. So I just want to now open it up for anybody who may have a question about the program, a question about a question for any of the mentors here, any comments. Again, lots of you that are here attending this are mentors as well, or who have been impacted by having a mentor. So I just want to open it up. Feel free to use the chat or to raise your hand. I will try to be you can use the hand raise function, or I will try to be really quick here and keep a close eye. Maybe Molly and Diane can help me watching for anyone who may have a hand up. Sarah.
You know me, Heidi, I'm always ready to jump right in.
Awesome.
Since we have such a wealth of knowledge here and experience, as I approach being a mentor, what would be, and I'm sure there'll be different answers, the one thing that you would never want to do as a mentor, and the one thing that you would always want to do as a mentor?
Good question.
Anyone want to take that? So what is one thing that you should never do as a mentor, or you would never want to do as a mentor?
Like a do and a don't, like this
Do and a don't.
Yeah, like you really don't want to do this. And maybe that's, I'm being facetious, but hey, come live at my house with me. And maybe something that you always want to do is, here's my cell phone so you can always reach me. Those are just crazy examples, but I'm sure people have their own ideas of something that they would always do, and something that's like, yeah, you don't want to go down that path.
Yeah. Mark, do you want to take that? Mark is a very long time mentor in New Hampshire for the New Hampshire chapter. Hopefully joining the ranks of SCIboston, but a very
Thank you, Heidi.
frequent flyer at all of our groups. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. My don't would be to compare one injury. Well, Joe Schmo can do this. Why can't you? Same injury, blah, blah, blah. Hypothetically. That would be my don't. And my do would be, besides the individual that sustained the injury, they've got a circle of influence around them that needs as much help as they do. And I would make sure they got that navigating skills. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Heidi, I think Caitlin raised her hand.
Okay. Caitlin and then Linda.
Oh, I didn't, but
oh, you didn't?
No, if I did it by accident.
Okay.
I would say though, one thing that you always want to give them, kind of like a twofold, is hope. Like you always want to have hope. You never know what's going to happen. And I would also say, one thing to always keep in mind is to set boundaries, because sometimes, things can be, you want to keep it like a appropriate and not professional relationship, but I just think establishing boundaries so that you don't have someone calling you at in the middle of the night and things like that. So those are the two things that come to mind.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Caitlin, have you ever had someone call you late at night or anything like that?
No, but I've heard other people,
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
some people just kind of can push it too far. So yeah, I just think it's important to set those boundaries, and you're not on call 24 hours, so it's important to set those up from the beginning, if possible.
Definitely, definitely.
Thank you. I'm gonna go to Linda and then Matthew and Josh. Is that okay? Linda.
I would say never tell anyone you never walk again. Or, just say you'll never get out of the chair or something like that. Because people have hope. They say, well, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to walk. I'm progressing. So encourage them to try their hardest, but at the same time, don't over encourage that, yeah, you will walk, because you don't want to discourage them, but you don't want to over encourage either that it's a good possibility. Because I know people that have really improved that I never thought would be able to stand, and they now can stand. So you can never predict for them, and let them dream. And also, what I would do is I always encourage people to join these groups, because before COVID, my best days of my life were being with other people with spinal cord injuries. I look forward every Thursday to going down to peer mentoring with the group of people that were now my friends. They're my closest friends. Because you can talk anything with them. You can talk about bladder infections. You can talk about things, very male or female, whether, and it's such a good group to open up to that no one else can understand. And like as family mentors, like Diane was saying, no one knows what they were going through behind the scenes. So it's very important. And the best thing I ever did after my injury, I met a man that was a quadriplegic, driving, ran a business for 36 years, and was retired. And he encouraged me to do goals and maybe get up and volunteer somewhere, which was about a year and a half after my injury. I worked with a peace workplace of all Down syndrome employees, and there were 300 of them in the place, and they were such a wonderful group of people that gave me so much encouragement that life goes on, and there's always something you can do in life. And so when I left Pennsylvania, I continued to I volunteered there for 5 years, and then I came up here, and the first thing I did was look for someplace I could volunteer. So that was it took me a year and a half into meeting another mentor, a peer that I could relate to and that could relate to me, and we became best of friends. So that's what I would encourage people to do.
Thank you, Linda. Thanks for sharing that. And as Linda had mentioned, and a few others have kind of alluded to, things did look very different before COVID. And I think the whole world looked different, but it also looked different for our mentoring program, where we had a lot of our peer mentors that were just on the 6th floor at Spalding, or able to just freely go into rehabs, hospitals, and interact with people. And it's very different today. So, and I do see there's a question in the chat, which we will absolutely get to.
Yep, I'm answering that.
Okay,
Yep.
Matthew.
I can't say exactly, Sarah, like what, I would definitely or definitely not do. Everyone's like personal boundaries are different. Caitlin said, set a boundary and don't call me in the middle of the night. Like, you got a problem or something, you can call me in the middle of the night. I'm fine. So, for everyone, it's totally different. One thing I think I've learned about myself in peer mentoring is not to take anything personally. you know, there's sometimes where you'll be hooked up with like someone new and you spend 2 hours on the phone with them, and you know, you feel like you have great connection. You're sending them emails and texts with you know, follow-up resources and things they should look into, and then you just never hear from them again, you know, for whatever reason that may be, positive, negative, you know, it happens. You know, trying not to take that personally at all. That's something I've really learned about myself and has been like a growing kind of lesson for me. So I would say don't try to get yourself wrapped up and take that personally, as hard as it can be, for me at least.
Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, good points for sure. Joshua.
Heidi.
Oh, yes.
Josh.
You sure, Diane? I don't mind.
No, go ahead. Well, go ahead.
Okay.
We're gonna
Yeah.
go to, yeah, we'll get to it.
Sorry. Yeah. I'll keep it real brief. I know we got a ton of questions, but I know for me as a mentor, I think one thing I would never do is, you know, outside of mandated reporting, is break trust. You know, I've had parents reach out and say like, you know, how's so and so doing, and it's just important to recognize that this role comes with the level of, you know, confidentiality, and you're in a supporting role. So it's just important to maintain that level of trust. And then something I always try to do is just maintain goal setting. You know, everyone needs something on the horizon that they can go and, you know, fight towards. So I just think motivation and goal setting are huge to maintain. So yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you. Thanks, Josh. And Josh is one of our incredibly valuable mentors as well, and also the group leader for the Thursday SCI support group. So thank you, Josh.
Yeah, thanks, Heidi.
Really, really important message, Josh. Yes,
Yeah.
confidentiality.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very important.
Go ahead to the chat. Apologies for.
No worries at all. Anne asked, Anne Brevin asked, and I just lost the question. Hold on 1 minute, please. She wanted to know the process of becoming a mentor. I explained that. She said, I explained that. How long does that process generally take? Well, I'm going to use Sarah and Ed right now. They're just starting the process. And it took, 3 minutes to sign the paperwork that I sent you. And then what we'll be doing is asking them, and they already do attend meetings on a best case scenario on a regular basis, so that you get to know the community, stay active within the community. And then we have a training that is scheduled for the end of February. It has not been confirmed yet, but they will be mentors if that class is scheduled and confirmed. They'll be mentors by March. So it happens fairly quickly. There's very seldom do you have to wait any length of time, more than 2 months. It's all in getting the paperwork done and then scheduling the training. The second set of training is through United Spinal. It is a matter of one at-home virtual training that you need to watch. It's about 45 minutes. And then it's a matter of registering for the training. And Lindsay from United Spinal has a couple of documents she asked the mentors to sign, and then it goes from there. The training is done on a Saturday, 4 hours, over and done with, and then Heidi and I get to work on matching you with mentees. So it doesn't take long at all, really.
Yeah. And we also encourage anybody who'd like to become a mentor. We encourage anybody to come to support groups, but particularly if you are interested in becoming a mentor, come to the support groups. And I think one of the benefits of doing that also is that you will learn so much from other people and from the way that other people respond. I'm just looking at the screen here. There's many people on the screen that I have learned so much from, but just to hear how Josh might respond to a question or handle a situation, as an example. is incredibly helpful. And it's always a learning process, even if you've been mentoring for a very long time, to hear from other people.
And Talita has her hand up.
Oh, I didn't see that. Talita, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm muted. We've all been there. But I do have two questions actually about general questions about the program to Diane, similar to the one we just answered. How are people matched? Is it like through injury level, goals, age, gender? I just want to hear a little bit about how you guys plan that, or how it works for matching a mentee and a mentor. And then also, is in the training itself, is there like a structure or set topics and goals to be checked off with the person? Or is it more like organic freestyle approach? Um, yeah, I don't know if that made sense, but those are my questions.
All right, and Heidi, feel free to jump in. So how are you matched? So we meet with you virtually to get to know your personality, to get a feel for your personality, and to learn a little bit more about you. Prior to the meeting, I will send out a mentee form or a family intake form or a spinal cord injury intake form. And those forms, 3 pages, tell us about you. Tell when your injury was, where you live, your likes, your dislikes, your interests. Do you go to work? What happens? What happens in your life? It's a little story about you. And we keep those, all right? We keep them stored in a folder in our system. And so Toledo, if you decided that you wanted to be a mentor, we would go to your intake form, and we have people who want to have a mentor. So the mentees, we would ask them the same questions, same types of questions, basically. And then we try to match you: age, location, interests, all of that. All right. And would match you that way. Okay. We try to do location. That is one of the last things that's not the most important part. You can still meet virtually, you can still talk on the phone, but we try to do the best we can with all of it to match you as best we can. And your second question, remind me about your second question.
Thank you.
It was about the training.
Yeah, about the training. Just about the training, is it like a structured, kind of giving you topics and things to talk about or to tackle, or is it very just organic and freestyle and connection and basically figuring out individualized what the person needs?
A little bit of all of it. However, mostly it is structured. We have 4 hours. A lot of it is role playing. So what will happen is we'll break off in groups. You'll get a topic to talk about one-on-one, and you'll role play together. So we'll break it off in groups of 2, and then you role play together. But it's not anything really daunting. It's you're there, you like it, and we try to make it fun. And Lindsay Elliott, she runs it. Heidi and I will be there, or Molly and I will be there, and just to oversee the group. But basically, it's very casual. You're in your house. You know it's virtual, so you can just go through it, and it's pleasurable. I think it's pleasurable. Anybody else who's taken the training, let me know.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining, Diane.
Yeah, and there's also a handbook that goes along with it, just for reference, for things like SMART goals and a few other kind of best practices and guidelines. But we also meet monthly as a
Yes.
group, a peer mentor meeting, and have different topics and discuss different things. And we recognize that it's very challenging. There's no right or wrong answer to any of this when you're working with somebody, but we're always here if you have a question or a concern, or you're not able, you're just sort of saying, I'm not really sure how to handle this. And yes, Doug did say, yes, so in the training, there's also a pretty good focus on topics like suicide prevention or what to do in those situations as a mentor. So there's a few kind of important pieces there as well. We have about 5 minutes left, and we are going to be ending this promptly at 12:30. Linda, I see you have your hand up, but I just first would like to ask if there was anybody else participating who hasn't had an opportunity to speak yet or had a question they would like to ask. Kind of working off of 2 screens here, so I'm just checking.
And Ryan, thank you for putting in the chat. Ryan put the link in for what is a mentor. So it's on our SCIboston.org, our site, and you can go in and you can see the mentors, you can see the bios, and we're here today. You'll see familiar faces. So thank you, Ryan, for doing that.
Thank you, Linda, for waiting. I'm going to go to David and then I will go to you, Linda. Thank you. David.
Hi, guys. Thank you, Chris. I'm really blown away what Chris does. Josh, everyone that does the peer mentoring. I was injured just before Ryan was. I met Ryan in 2011. We're both mountain biking injured guys. Back in those days, I don't know if there was a peer mentoring program, but for me, I was injured mountain biking, and that was kind of my whole life. Long story short, I'll just sum it up. I did everything myself. I learned everything the hard way. A peer mentor would have been amazing. My family and I were, it was devastating the first few years, trying to get it all together, learning everything on our own. And so Dave Estrada, actually, when I was still living in Vermont, did reach out. I was trying to find some housing out here, and he told me he was road biking and doing these crazy things. So that kind of opened my mind. But in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, there was really no resources at all. And then when I moved here, I didn't even know there was such a thing. And I'm not sure if there was in 2011. So coming from someone who didn't have a mentor, I can tell you this is incredible. And I've known Diane forever. And I think my whole trajectory would have been different. So I want to thank all the mentors out there, because I mentor people just on my own and with whatever bow or whatever they want to bring up, and a little information can go a million miles. So I just want to really happy to be here, and I'll cut it short there, but I love this group.
Thank you, David. We're glad to have you here.
David.
Chris, did you?
I just wanted to make a short comment.
Sure.
It'd be nice if one time, maybe there would be I'm finding a lot of older people versus younger and middle age. I'm 73 now, and as I see people getting injured at 69 into their 70s, I mean, it's the end of you're supposed to have an end of life plan. It really gets interrupted, and the same as the beginning of life plans. So it'd be nice to do a little program on maybe mentoring teens, mentoring middle age, and mentoring old age, and how to different groups need different support, different ages.
Good point,
Absolutely, Linda. And we do have, you're right, there are a lot now more older people who are sustaining injuries, and we're seeing that a lot. So we do have a very wide variety in our of different people of different ages in our mentor program. But great point, Linda. Thank you. Chris Johnson, I thought maybe I saw did you have something, or maybe you just
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I would have a question or a comment.
Yes.
Jim Cleary.
Hi, Jim.
I guess this is more for mentors. I'm Jim Cleary out in Worcester, injured 14 months ago. I'm more of a person. I just got a mentor and how important it is. And I cry a lot, and I'm overwhelmed by every one of the comments and how much they're needed. Just thanks for everything you do. And feel like I'm barely surviving, being overwhelmed, and how much I need it. And I will reach out to my mentor today, and I see Kavit Kasiva just called. A lot of people, I meet so many, and I want to give back so much someday. But thanks for everything you do. Every one of your stuff that I would like to see in writing and kind of just be able to reach out to. And I would love to see a chat forum where us newly injured could ask questions, and we all share questions that maybe someone could answer, or resources.
Yeah, Jim, are you on the Facebook group by any chance? The
Yeah,
SCIboston
yeah,
Facebook group?
yeah. I haven't done much with it yet.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm so happy that we've been connected
yeah,
with Mentor. Keep coming to
yeah,
the groups. We
I
love
will.
having you.
I've had so much,
Yeah.
UTIs and everything so lately, but thanks
Yeah.
for everything. Looking forward to all the great resources every one of you done, and all the potential mentors out there. You're needed, and we need you, and I thank you for everything you do. A lot of us are drowning and overwhelmed with all the new stuff in our lives. So thanks, everybody.
Jim, I'm glad things are working out with your mentor.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm glad.
We're here for you, buddy.
Thank you.
You're definitely not alone at any time.
Heidi, Kristen has her
Yes,
hand up.
Kristen.
Thanks, Heidi. Thanks, Diane. I just want to reiterate everything that everybody said. It's so critical that people have hope. And even if you can steer them in the direction, like Linda mentioned, volunteering, one little thing that they can do just so they don't sit home. There's a lot of time on your hands if you're not doing anything. And as Heidi said, there's no wrong answer. We'll just go with the flow, whatever this person wants to work on. It's so important to be there to show up. I think that's the most important thing. But just to wrap it up and say, I really appreciate all the mentors. I appreciate GBC. As I said, when I got hurt, there were no mentors. There were also no support groups. That came a lot later. So I would really encourage people to go to the support groups. I would have loved a support group, and especially the family members. I know when I got hurt, I was 15, still living at home. My parents would have loved a support group and a mentor if they could have had that, because you're really like a fish out of water. You don't know what's happening. You don't know what's going on. You don't even know what the next step is. So just to have someone to help guide you through that is huge. So I always read the notices. I don't have a lot of time to go to the support groups, but the topics are awesome. And hopefully if I get to retire soon, I'll start mentoring again and come to the support groups. But love to you all. You do a great job, and I'm always blown away.
Don't ever retire. We need you.
No, she's saying she's
allowed.
gonna be a
Not
mentor.
allowed.
Yeah.
No time soon.
We need her as the disability commissioner of Boston, right? Yeah.
Yes, for the next
Listen,
20 years.
Yeah, what a great note to end this on, this meeting on. Thank you all so much. Thank you to our mentors for participating. Even if you weren't a panelist, thank you all for all of our mentors for your hard work. We could not do this without you. You make a huge difference. And please reach out to Diane or myself if you have questions about the peer mentor program, whether you would like a mentor, whether you want to become a mentor. And please reach out to any of us, Diane, myself, Molly, Doug, anyone you have contact with here. If there's anything that you need, any way that we can help and support you, that's what we're here for, and we're happy to do it. So I wish you all a wonderful rest of the weekend, and thank you again.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you to Heidi and Diane. Hope this was helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Guys.